Welcome, everybody. Thanks for coming to the Postgres Extension Ecosystem Mini Summit number 3. Appreciate y'all coming. Today's talk is going to be by Devrim Gündüz, who's going to talk to us about the Postgres Community Yum repository and the challenges of RPMifying extensions. So take it away, Devrim. You might be muted. There you go.
Thanks everyone for joining us tonight, this evening, or this afternoon, this morning, wherever you are. Thanks David for the introduction. So I'm going to talk about today yum and zip.postgrescode.org because zip is another challenge for us, and then challenge about making the RPMs of the extension. So my name is Devrim. I work for EDB as a Postgres expert. I'm a Postgres major contributor, responsible for the Postgres RPM repo. So if you are using any RPMs for Red Hat, Rocky Linux, Alma, Fedora, and SUSE, I'm building them. Also contribute to Fedora and Rocky Linux, mostly Fedora and EPEL actually. Community member, proud to be community member, and I live in London. And nowadays I'm also doing some DJing as well. So, so if I get fired one day, I have an extra job to do. This is the agenda for today. So in PGConf EU last year in Prague, I had 60 slides for 5 minutes. So we are expecting an hour. So expect a huge number of slides for today, but not this time actually. But anyway, it's going to be some slides, but I want to leave some time for discussion and questions and etc. So I'm going to start with how it started. I mean, back to the 2000s. Talk about the contents of the repos, which distributions we support, because that's another challenge. How do we do the extension packaging? How to build the RPMs of an extension, and how to update an extension RPM. That's another thing. And then the horror story. And what happens when there's a new Postgres beta 1 is out, which is due in the next month or so for Postgres 17. And then we are going to speak about the extension maintainers, another problem for us, and then the problems about relying on the external repos. So if you have any questions, please ask as soon as you can. I may not be able to follow the chat during the presentation, but I'll try as much as I can. So let's talk about how it started. When I started using Linux in 1996 and Postgres in 1998, we always had Tom Lane, and we had Lamar Owen for who built the RPMs for Red Hat upstream. So they were just building the distribution packages, nothing community. And it was only specific to Red Hat, not Red Hat Enterprise Linux, but Red Hat 3, 4, 5, not the non-enterprise version of Red Hat back then. And then Fedora Core, it was called it Fedora Core back then. And the first version was released in November 2003, which was another challenge for the packaging. And one of the problems with the community packaging was it was slightly, distribution packaging was slightly behind of the minor Postgres releases, sometimes major Postgres releases. So that was one single Postgres version available for a given distro, say Postgres 6.4 or something, 7.0. And not so multiple versions were not available back then, and the minor version was slightly behind. And I started building packages for my laptop because I want to use Postgres, and Postgres isn't available, or not all of the versions are available back then. So I started building packages for my laptop and my server. They were based on the packaging of Tom and Lamar, and then I uploaded them to my personal server and emailed PG mailing lists and said, well, I'm running my own distro. I'm running on packages. Use at your own risk. This is just a rebuild of the Red Hat upstream packages on my on the Red Hat version that I'm using or the Fedora version that I'm using. Up to you. It's a personal project, nothing serious. So then people started downloading them and using them. And then there was no signature, nothing official back then. And then Lamar actually stepped up to, Lamar said he didn't have enough time for the RPMs. He sent an email to the mailing lists. And I said, Devrim is stepping up to plate, and I did it. So that was the time, it was, I think, 2004, when we did this thing, which is about 20 years ago. So 19 years ago, we had the first domain, postgresql.rpms.org, and then we had more packages. In 2007, we had the first repository RPM, and then we had yum.postgres.org. This means starting 2007, this began to be the official RPM repo of the community, which was a good thing, because we could control everything under the community. And in Canada, I was living in Canada back then, and we had the first RPM build farm. Instead of using my laptop and my VMs, we had the actual machine back then. And in 2010, we have it was then called multiple postmaster support, which means the parallel installation of the Postgres RPMs. That was a revolution back then, because even still, the current Fedora or Red Hat RPMs cannot be installed in parallel. So if you want to install Postgres 13, 14, 15, 16, and 17, or whatever, it is available in the community repo. This is a great feature because you may want to upgrade, you may want to test, you may want to do something else. So this is how we started. So maybe basically 14 years ago, we had this feature in the community repo. And then next year, we moved the repo to the community servers, unified the spec files. Our builds are extremely simple. Like, you can start your own builds in like less than 10 minutes for any package. I mean, no, 10 minutes for 5 minutes for pulling the Git repo, and then a few minutes for a package. So it's extremely simple builds, and now we are in 2024. So let's talk about the contents, because we have actually 4 different contents for the repo. The first one is common repo. We call it common in the repository config file. They are the RPMs that work across all Postgres major releases. So let's say PG Badger, or ODBC driver, GDBC driver, GDAL or libspatiality for Postgres. There are lots of stuff, or Python packages, some Python packages, which are not extensions, but like Petroni, which actually works for all Postgres releases. This was an effort that I made to get rid of duplicates in the Postgres repo. I think we shaved lots of gigabytes back then, and we still shave a lot. And then, which is actually one of the topics of today's talks, we have the non-common RPMs. These are the name of the directories, by the way. So they are the RPMs which are Postgres version specific only. I mean, basically they are extensions. Okay, so say PLP, JSQL check, 15, whatever. Lots of extensions, or FCE. Many extensions are over there. And then we have extras. They are not actually Postgres packages. They shouldn't be included in our repo by default, but many people actually look for these packages because they want to use Petroni and they don't have the supporting RPMs, or supporting RPMs are not even up to date. So I'm building console template, etcd, HA proxy, keep LID, and VIP manager. They are all open source. Some of them are Go packages, which actually I don't build them. I just built I just distribute the precompiled binaries via the repo. So that makes easier for the people to deploy the packages. And then we have the non-free repo. They are the packages which depend on closed source software like Oracle libraries, or has license restrictions. So, for example, ORTPG depends on Perl DB Oracle. Oracle FTU depends on Oracle. PG Strom depends on CUDA, NVIDIA stuff. Timescale DB dash TSL actually is timescale DB with the TSL license. Informix, oh, it's double here, and we have DB to FTW. So we have some non-free packages which actually depend on non-free stuff as well. All of them are well maintained. Well maintained in terms of I'm trying to keep everything up to date, like real up to date. So that brings some problems, but we will get there. So for the supported distributions, we support Red Hat Enterprise Linux and of course Rocky Linux. And last year this year we started supporting Alma Linux as well. I mean, of course they are more or less identical, but we test them, install and support, verify the packages over there in these three distributions. We have 64 bits, ARM 64, PPC 64, and Red Hat 9, 7, and 8. 9, 8, and 7. We have also Red Hat 6 for Postgres 12, but this is going to be killed by the end of this year. And we have Fedora, but only 2 major releases, which matches the Fedora lifecycle. And SUSE, my pain in the neck. I'll get there. I'll get there anyway. So since you're all here for extension packaging, let's get there. What happens for the extension packaging and what is done over there? So first of all, we have the first extension, which is the in-core extensions. They are delivered with the contrib sub package, which the directory name actually matches the the package name matches the directory name in the Postgres tarball. So they are the Postgres in-core extensions. They are separate packages for each major version. So Postgres 15-contrib, Postgres 13-contrib, stuff like this. And these are the installation directories of each extension. We are going to use those directories for the other extensions as well. So as long as when we add a new extension to the repo, they are going to use these directories if they have a binary or if they have an extension config file, if the library or the man files are all installed under these directories. This magic is done by PG access, which has been which is like there forever. So we just provide the initial stuff, and then the rest is done by the PG access magic. And yeah, again, this is the base for the out of core extension. So what happens when we do the non-common and non-free package? So first of all, they are distributed separately for each Postgres major version. So let's go back to the one of the extensions, say PLPG check extension. So we have a separate package for Postgres 14, separate package for Postgres 15, 16, 13, and 12. So basically, if they build against all the supported Postgres versions, we have separate packages for each. Of course, from time to time, as far as I remember, Timescale DB does this. Like Timescale DB, I think only supports Postgres 15 and 16 nowadays. So we drop support for the older versions in the Git repo. But they are separate packages. Basically, if you go back to the previous slide, so they are all installed in these directories as near the along with the main contrib package. So this is the naming convention that I use. So the extension name _ PG major version. Years and years and years ago, I think it was 4 or 6 years ago. I don't actually remember the exact year, but some of the packages didn't have underscore before the PG major version. It was a problem. So someone complained in the hackers mailing list, the user, and then I made the changes. So currently, all the previous and all the new packages have this naming convention, except a few packages like Postgres. Because in Postgres, we have multiple versions of the same extension. Let's say we have Postgres 3.3, 3.2, 3.4, 3.1, 3.0. And then we have like combinations of each. So basically I think we have Postgres 3.0 and some of the distributions, but mostly Postgres 3.1, 3.2, 3.3, and 3.4, and then all the Postgres versions that they support. So it's basically a lot of builds are going over there. So there are some exceptions where we have the extension name and extension measure version before the Postgres measure version there. I have a question from Jeremy. Let me read the question first. If you have thoughts about relocatable RPM packages, ever tried, or just best to avoid? This is a very basic question to answer. This is actually this is actually forbidden by the packaging rules. So the RPM packaging rules forbid you to distribute or create relocatable RPM packages. So this is, this is one of the things that we do. We stick to the community. We stick to the packaging guidelines. So this cannot be done. This cannot be done for our packages. So let's start talking about how we build extensions. Often our developed packages enough. So many of our packages just rely on Postgres itself. But of course, packages like Postgres may depend on some other, or GDAL, of course, requires lots of extra dependencies as well. And yeah, the most problematic one is the JS stack. So they need EPEL on rel and its derivatives. We rely on EPEL for this one. So there has been a discussion in the past about we should require EPEL by default. The answer is no, because not all of our users are installing JS, for example, JS stack or other packages. So the basic thing is, the most of our users, not the majority of our users, actually rely on just our repo. On the other hand, in order to provide completeness and for our users, I added lots of Python packages in the past to our repo to support Petroni, because the upstream packages, I'm sorry, not just, maybe upstream packages were not enough. The version wasn't enough, or maybe too low. I'll get there. So I also, from some time to time, I add non-Postgres related packages to the repo just to support the Postgres package. Nowadays, in the past, it was pgadmin. Now we don't have pgadmin in our repo, so that's not a problem. It's there. Upstream is building their own RPMs, which is a good thing for us. And then we are doing mostly for Petroni. However, this is a potential problem for some enterprise users, because enterprise users, like large companies, even don't want to use EPEL repo, because they feel like it's not a community repo. It's a community repo controlled by Fedora and Reddit. That's why from time to time I try to add some of the packages to our repo. So if it's a problem for the enterprise users, it means, should we maintain lots of tens of extra packages in the EPEL repo for the JS stack? The answer is no, definitely no. Not just because of the human power that we need for maintaining those packages. Rebuilding them is easy. If I just get the source RPM, commit the spec files to our repo, and rebuild them. It's easy, but maintaining them is something else. Like we have a similar problem. We will have a similar problem. Not we have it, but when we release our own ICU package in the next few years. Because now that we have the in-core collation, but just for C-locale, and people are trying to get rid of glibc, maybe we should have an ICU package, but that's another big problem, which is not a part of this presentation. But maintaining an ICU library across a single Postgres measure version is a real big challenge that I don't know how to solve for now, at least. And then, and slice, my pain in the neck. The JS stack, it requires lots of repos on Slice 15. They are well documented on our website. I'll get there later on. Fedora is safe because Fedora is Fedora. Everything is there. It's easy to get the package over there, so it's safe. So I think we have more questions. Let me try to read them and answer them. Yeah. So okay, maintaining them is something else. Yeah, that's the problem, Jeremy. So how do I create RPMs? How do you RPMify an extension? The first thing is know that the extension exists. This is one of the big problems with between developers and users. So developer first creates an extension, very useful extension, and then first problem, they don't create a tarball. I mean, they don't release anything. So they expect people to install Git on their production databases and Git clone, Git pull, sorry, and then install make GCC, all the development libraries on their production machines and build a bind, blah blah. So I'm sorry, that's not going to work. So that's not going to work. Like it also doesn't work for pip as well. Like pip is not a package manager. It just destroys your server, right? It downloads something random to some places, and then everything's gone. That's why I added lots of Python packages to support Petroni, because like most of the users, at least the sane users, use the package manager to install Postgres and other packages to their servers. That's okay. Like it's the same for Debian, same for Ubuntu, same for RPMs and etc. Same for Windows as well. Like we have Windows installer. Same for macOS X. So anyway, so first of all, we have to know that the extension exists, and we have to have a tarball, right? So if I see an extension which seems good enough, I'll get there. But is PGXtend a good play? I mean, it's a good piece, yes, because when I go to Postgres pgxtend.org a few times per day, which I do, and see if there is a new version of an extension, or if there's a new extension, I check the list every day, a few times per day. It's a good piece, but there's a problem because like we have hundreds of extensions, but well, maybe thousands, or maybe 1,000 extensions, but not all of them are on PGXtend or PGXtend version 2. They should be. So I don't know how to solve this problem, but we should expect every extension order to add their extensions, announce their extensions over PGXtend. I'm not just talking about like being installing everything through PGXtend, but at least just have an entry. There's a new extension. This is a repo. Like this is what we have right now. This is a repo. This is the website. This is a README, and this is a tarball. Right? Easy. So we can get there and download. I mean, it doesn't have to be on PGXtend. It could be hosted somewhere else. I don't care. As long as we have something, that would be great. And then, of course, I check the order or the version. Like there is a PG kill your database extension with an order, and then the version is 0.001 something. Of course, that's not going to be added to the repo. So because we don't want to distribute an experimental feature. So there's another problem. Lots of people write extensions, but some of them are just garbage. I'm sorry, but that's the truth. Or I mean, they just release a version and then do nothing. Yeah, PG_exist is coming. Yeah, that's actually we have. So that's the question, and that's the thing on chat is PG_exit is coming. That's right, because actually we have Black Hole FTW, which was written by Andrew Dunstan, which adds MySQL features to Postgres. So when you create when you create Black Hole FTW, it throws all of your data to Black Hole, so everything is gone. So basically, it's the MongoDB feature, not MySQL, sorry, to Postgres. Yeah, if it's not on PGX and it doesn't exist, that's a good thing. I mean, that's what I hope that we should achieve in the next year or so. So there is another comment which I would like to mention in here from Jimmy. I would correct it to if he says if it is not on PGXN, it is not maintained. I'll get there, because that's one of the big problems that we have. I mean the maintenance in here. I mean. And then of course we create this spec file. This is the hardest part. Believe me, I mean all of my brains die. No, I just copy from the original, from the one of the existing ones, and just start editing it, which is because it's easy. And sometimes we have to add patches for lots of things. But in the past, until I think we stopped doing that about 3 years ago, maybe 4 years ago. We used to carry patches for each Postgres major version to change the make files for the specific Postgres major version. But I realized that it was one of the stupidest things that I have ever done in my life. So after getting married, and then of course, but so now we just export the path and it's fixed. And then I initiate a Scratch build for any missing build requires. Scratch build is done through Koji. I said it's Koji. It's mock. Sorry. It's a Reddit thing. I use, at least I use it on Reddit or Fedora or SUSE, whatever. So if there's any missing build requirement, build requires, it tells me, because it just fails to build. I only do it on Fedora latest for now. Of course, not for every package because I'm lazy. And it doesn't always help because some distros may not have that dependency. Let's say we rely on some. Let's say we rely on some really good feature that comes with a latest version of something, but that latest version may not appear in Red Hat 7 or Red Hat 8. And yeah, so some distros may have, but the version may be lower than required. Or some distros, I'm sure you understand which distro I'm talking about, the pain in the neck distro, may have the dependence under different name. So if now in the spec file we have if SUSE then this, and if then Red Hat this, or in Fedora then this, if Red Hat 9 then this, if Red Hat 8 then this. So we have some ifs and ifs over there, but that's okay. That's expected. As long as we have the package, I don't care. And then I push it to the Git repo. I use Git repo not for just like committing the spec files and patches. I also use it for carrying the spec files and patches to the build instances. I'll get to the build instances in the next few slides. If something fails, I go back to drawing board. So what may fail? GCC may fail. I mean, if there's like GCC 14 has been released on Fedora 40 and is causing lots of issues for packaging nowadays. It could be a CMake, too recent or too old. It could be LLVM for Postgres. Again, LLVM 18 is a problem for Postgres nowadays. So there could be some problems. So I go either try to fix it or just ping upstream. I often ping upstream because that must be fixed anyway. If everything is okay, just push the packages to the repo. So we have a potential thing that is a to-do item for me. There is no proper announcement. So I have a very awesome extension which is available in the Postgres repo that like people are craving for PG set with, and and then we are built extensions. It took me a lot of time. Thanks, thank you, Jimmy. And then he helped me a lot. And then I didn't actually announce it that much. But on the other hand, people just can use PG set with install and you start using it in a few seconds. So there's something that we should improve. I should improve in here. So let's go. Let me look at the chat for any questions, etc. How to handle extension versioning properly? So that's a question from George. I mean, if in the control file, the version could be anything, like Citus default version is this, and the published version is this, and the default version could remain there forever. And he also have seen wild extensions that control file version 0.1 and the release version is 1.5. So that's a good thing, but extension version and the release version doesn't have to match. Extension version isn't the same thing with the release version. It's the version of the SQL file or the functions, whatever the or the functions or the tables or whatever the views, sort procedures, whatever the control file brings you. So if it's 0.1, it means it's 0.1. It means nothing has changed in the specific extension regarding the control file. Okay, so that's okay. They may bump up the package version because they may add new features, but if they do not add new features to the SQL file, then they don't update the extensions. They don't update the extensions actually. I hope that answers your question, George. So I have another question from Wrong. So how about adding some good extensions written in Rust? Yay! I was afraid that someone would ask that one. We have no extensions written in Rust so far in the repo. It is not, it's not like Go, because there's a ban against Go because we don't want to download the old internet to the build instances just to build an extension. I think I may be wrong, but PG Anonymizer, I think they are rewriting the extension in Rust. So they will let me know when they release it or when they're ready to release it. So I'm gonna build them, but this is something it's not something I don't like it. It's just that it didn't happen before. So if you think there are good extensions out there like these ones, just create a ticket in our Redmine, which is in the redmine.postgres.org, or if you go to the yum.postgres.org, you are going to see a link to the issue tracker. If you go there and create a ticket, I can take a look. I'm happy to take a look as long as I know them. So that's one of the problems. I have never heard about PG Analytics. I have never heard about PGMI because they are not on PGXN. Okay, or you know what I mean. Maybe they are. So this is something that we should improve in the next few months. In the next few months. So another question from Steven, how to handle system dependencies like libc versions being updated on the target systems? Do extensions need to be compiled against exactly to a specific libc version? The answer is no. It's mostly because they don't update the libc version they don't update major versions to libc across the lifetime of a release. So that's something that we don't need to rebuild the extension against libc. How can we make sure bug fix or extensions is safe before installing it? That's a great question from Nevzat. So the question is, how can we make sure that the bug fix or extensions is safe before installing it? Up to you. It's like, how do you install Postgres? So it's no different than installing Postgres or installing another thing. I just built RPMs. Okay, and on the other, and if you are reading the hackers mailing list nowadays, people rely on me and Christoph and others so that we don't inject any code to the RPMs or Debian packages, right? So you just need to trust us for not adding extra code to the packages, but then if there's a feature problem or any bug fix problem, then you should complain upstream, not us. So you should just test again. So there's a comment from I'm sorry I can have to pronounce your name. VRMI query. I'm sorry for not being able to pronounce your name. I apologize for this. So over at Tempo, we have a project called Trunk Packager, which attempts to automatically create dep packages given the extension shared object. So we try to identify the dynamic libs the extension requires by parsing its elf and trying to map the required SO to Debian package. Yeah, that could be done, but it's like I don't like complex things. That's why I'm an RPM packager. So there's another question from Rohan. How to handle RPM and extension name conflicts, like Hydra is columnar and Citus is columnar? Just I think Citus has come first, so you should complain Hydra at this point. Just they should change their name. That's that's all I can say. So you can just complain to Hydra and ask them to change the name. Yeah, they should be identical. We have something similar with PG pool nowadays. They are conflicting with the PCP library, which has been in the Linux on the last 25 years. So I think PG pool has to change the name. So a comment from Keith. He says, "Hi Keith." He says, "I still update the control file with my extensions, even if it's on a library change. Makes it easier to know that the version is installed from within the database, not just by looking at the package version, which may not be accessible." I'm not saying I don't agree. I don't agree with you, but it means every time. I mean, every time I have to update my extension version in my running database. Okay, that's okay, but it's some extra work, but that's okay. I mean, that's okay. It's the user's problem, not my problem. um, so question from Jason. But that means the build is safe within a single release. So it doesn't mean that you can move a build extension from one Fedora to another, right? It's not safe. It may not be safe because GCC version may be different and other stuff may be different. So one distro from another is not safe, Jason. Sorry about that. So I think I read this question, Stephen, but yeah. So David answered. So how to handle system dependencies like libc versions being updated on the target system? Do the extensions need to be compiled against exactly specific libc version? And David's answers is libc is stable in each major version of the operating system. That's right. Yeah, that's the previous question. Yeah, another comment. I think Citus has changed it to Citus columnar. You're right. Citus changed its name to columnar. Jimmy, I'm not going to read your comment about Go because I don't think you can swear enough to go in here. So that's list that I can. So if you want to write more, I can read it for you. So yeah, let me continue for now. First, we know that we know the extension exists, and then we also need to know that the extension is an update, right? Sometimes release a new extension version, and then we need to know about this one. And unfortunately, again, the same problem with knowing an extension exists, they just don't let us know. This is a big challenge. Fedora has an in-house solution. When you add a new package to Fedora, they check. I think they crawl their repo. I think once a day, and if there's a new release, they create a ticket in their bug tracker automatically, so that the maintainer knows that there's a new version. This can be done. It needs some hacking, which I cannot do. If there's a volunteer, I would be happy to run this. Or maybe the easiest thing is just add them to everything to the to PGXN. So when we update an extension, we have to make sure that it didn't break anything. So then it requires some testing as well. Like, so when I mean, this is something similar that I talked earlier. Building is something else. Maintaining the extension is a bigger thing. So I feel like if you want to raise a baby, you are responsible until the end of your life, right? If you have a baby, this is the same thing. Consider this like your baby. If you created it, either just let us know if you don't like to maintain it anymore. That's fine. Or just please respond to the tickets that I'll get there. And the next question would be when olders release a new version, the minor version of the extension, sometimes they break a previous Postgres release just randomly. Like some of the extensions that I don't want to give the name right now, but they got rid of Postgres 12 support like early enough. and 12 is still supported. So it happens as well. And the upgrade path work, like if there's an extension update, did the alternate extension work? Everything, or did I break anything? So that's another thing. You know, as like I have some fat fingers. I have to check that the everything is safe. So etc. So let's go back to the horror story, which is starting next month. Postgres new beta is out. Everyone's happy, you know, right? Postgres beta, blah blah, beta 1 is out. Great. Now let's start testing new features. It means it's for the packagers. It's time to start the building extensions against the new Postgres release, against beta 1. However, since it's just beta 1, so it may fail. So the extension order may fix it, and then it may fail against beta 2. So I understand if extension orders may want to wait until RC1. Okay, that's quite acceptable as long as they let us know that they are going to wait until RC is there. That's fine for me. And many of them fail. And then we create tickets. I and Christoph actually do this against each one, and then display them under wiki.postgres.org. It's a hall of shame. If you want to go there, well, this is fine for now. But we need to. I would like you to see Postgres 17 extension bugs when the 17 beta is out. So we have a list of them as well, and then we pass through the extension orders because they don't respond to ticket. So what do we do next? There's a question for you. We do it again. 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 Because they just don't respond to us. And I think on Monday, I got a response from a extension maintainer. He said, "You are talking like you are my boss." I said, "I'm talking like I'm your user. I'm sorry." I just asked for for a very specific thing. So that's the problem. So where is the maintainer? That's another problem because they don't respond at all. They don't respond to the tickets. They don't respond to the emails. Or they don't update the extensions for the recent Postgres versions. They have a great extension, say SQLite FTW, but it's not updated for the recent Postgres versions. Don't get me wrong, even the big companies also do this, which some of them are here, or not updating the extensions for the new GCC versions. And so that's okay. I don't expect them to test everything against all the GCC versions. That's my problem. But just respond, please. So what's the responsibility of the packager in here? Like, should we fork, let's say, an extension? I don't want to give a name. If they don't respond at all, no, we are not forking it. But going to conferences helps because we go to conference. If the extension author is there, I can talk to them in person in a quiet place, okay, in a good way. Just please update the package tomorrow or you're gonna die. Of course not this, but you see what I mean. So it helps. So let me go back and there are lots of questions and comments as far as I can see. I'm going to skip container. Any word about containers? Sorry about this. So have ever upstream request stop package and extension? That's a good. So the question is, has any upstream has anyone I'm from upstream asked you to stop package and an extension? No. Actually, they support us a lot because that's the way that people use their extensions. So when do you decide to package any extensions? Do you coordinate with the upstream to make the decision? That's a question from Eric. So again, the question is, when do you decide to package a new extension? Do you coordinate with the upstream to make that decision? No. I coordinate with myself and try to build it. Of course, from time to time, upstream just can ping me They just create a ticket or just send me an email or just find me in the conference. Or hey, Devrim, we have a new extension. Could you please RPMify it? Okay, sure, why not? And then I'll ask them just send me an email or create a ticket. So I don't coordinate with upstream as long as there is no problem with the builds. So comment from Niels. I love Devrim's issues against our repos. They are like clockwork every year. Yeah, thank you. Thanks for responding them. So there's another question. I'm curious about how RPM deals with extension that depends on other PG extensions. We actually add dependency to that one. So that's a bit of work. Like PG routing depends on Postgres. Okay. So in order to provide a seamless installation, the Postgres package with, remember the Postgres packaging name? For example, Postgres 34_16. In the spec file, I add an extra line says it provides Postgres without no versions, nothing, just Postgres. And then when we install PG routing, it looks for any Postgres package, which is fine because it can run against any Postgres version, and then install it. Okay, so this is, so the thing is, I add dependency to the other extensions if we need them. I'm trying to remember another extension which requires. There's another extension which requires other extensions, not just this one. Anyway, so yeah, there are a few examples in the repo. Okay, so there's a comment from this about the about Citus. So I think I'm gonna scroll a bit down first. So you haven't run into a situation where upstream didn't want to appreciate you, or didn't? I haven't seen anything, any upstream person that didn't want me to package, but I haven't seen many appreciations either. I mean, they don't appreciate you. I'm being appreciated by EDB. Money must be funny. Thanks EDB. But that's all. I'll get there. That's another thing. But I didn't have any rejections so far. That was a good question. Okay, I'll continue. Relying on external repos is a big problem for SUSE. They just some of the maintainers just discontinue their repo. So one of the problems with SUSE is they don't have an EPAL like repo. So EPAL is a great thing. It's a great piece of thing. As an EPAL maintainer, the barrier to add a package to EPAL is not low, but not high either. So like if you're an advanced packager, you can just add a package like quick enough. Of course, it requires some review from others, but as long as you're an advanced packager, that should be easy. But this is a big problem for SUSE. Lack of maintenance is a problem. They just update. We have a repo, but they don't update it. So I have to go find another repo from build.opensuse.org, change it, update the website, change our build instance, etc. So that's a big problem. Yeah, and then there's cost, right? So what's the cost of building an extension, RPMifying an extension? Hosting a build server. So given we have a very beefy bare metal build server hosted by Enterprise DB, just because I'm working for them, and they have a spare machine as well. They have a very new spare machine. I was lucky enough to get that one. So hosting a build server is a cost. I have to use some external resources for architectural reasons. Like some of our build instances are not in here because like PPC 64 is hosted somewhere else. There are some sysadmin tasks to keep all of everything up up and running. Like EDB IT team actually helped me to fix an issue like issue today. for about a problem in one of our PPC, actually in both of our PPC instances. And then maintaining build instance is another thing, because you have to keep them up to date, and then also make sure that you don't break anything between each update. So it's not like just DNF update and build a package. No, it may be a problem with Fedora, because it's not a big problem. I mean, Fedora may just can update anything anytime they want. But it could be it's a less problem for SUSE and Reddit, but we have to take care that the updates don't break anything. One of the things that I forgot to talk is Reddit actually, Reddit Enterprise Linux, the company Reddit, actually follows our release schedule. So very, very interesting enough, we release every 3 months, right? I mean, we have a fixed release date. Of course, unless anything bad happens, we know when next release is. Next release is in May, and we know this. So in May, and we release on a Thursday, right? So every Wednesday, one day before our minor release, Reddit releases their new maintenance releases. So I mean, Reddit is going to release 9.4 on Wednesday before our minor release. So what does it mean for us as a packager, RPM packager of Reddit? So Reddit releases a new version which has new LLVM, for example, right? And then it means we have to rebuild the packages against the new LLVM so that people can use it, right? So it means I have to work until the morning, Thursday, sorry, Thursday morning to build the packages. That's fine. But there is another problem. And the problem is for Reki and Alma Linux users. Because Reki and Alma Linux users are not going to have the updated LLVM package, for example, or any package that we don't know right now. Actually, this is also valid for GCC. Okay, because Reddit is going to add the new GCC major version in a minor release. This has been since Reddit 8.1. So it's not like the old Reddit days. They change everything in minor versions. So I have to rebuild GCC LLVM on our instances. Add them to our special repo, which is not mentioned in here. It's in the config file, repository config file, which is called sysupdates repo. And this takes a lot of hours, because building GCC is a big thing, and building LLVM is another big thing. And then in the last 2 years, I was never able to build GCC source RPM, so I had to edit everything. And I'm not edit spec files, blah blah, to be able to build it. I have no idea how they can break in source RPM. So there's another cost over there. So in May, I'm going to spend lots of cycles to be able to keep up with the latest Reddit release, and also make the Rocky Linux and Alma Linux users happier. So maintaining build instance is a thing. Actually, it's not just running a DNF update or YAM update or zipper update. It's something else. And then deploying the packager, because all of the time is just I have the bills to pay, I have the beers to drink. I tend to do the latter. I tend to drink beer. It's much easier. So I'm going to go back to the questions again, or comments again. David, do we have
We got
time?
it in a minute.
Okay, sorry for lots of chat.
No, it's great.
So how do we handle PL Python-based extensions and pip dependencies, especially with the virtual env-based installations? Like PL Python usually relies on Python 3, but people shouldn't install dependencies there. So I don't know what the PL Python-based extensions are, but I try to get rid of everything about pip. So the base thing is, I mean, from packager point of view and the user point of view, I'm not a developer. Okay, and the DBAs are not developers, and sysadmins are not developers. So they are not supposed to use Git. They are not supposed to use pip. They are supposed to use the package manager to be able to keep up with everything. So so my point is, if someone needs pip, then I should fix it. That's what I did for Petroni. I added lots of packages to our Git repo just to be able to support Petroni. That's fine. I think I added about 10 of them so that they can avoid pip. So yeah, I think is it just because of our time? Oh, okay.
Yeah, I just want to get in.
Okay, sorry about that. And that was the
No,
last slide anyway.
this has been great. Thank you, Devrim. And if people want to hang around and continue chatting and have the time, I'm fine with that. I'm just going to wrap up the meeting here and the recording. But first, I wanted to pitch that I believe in 2 weeks, Jonathan Katz is going to talk about trusted language extensions, or TLEs, and what the vision is there and what the specifics are as kind of a method of distributing extensions. So looking forward to that. It's possible that it might fall through because he's super busy, but that's the current plan. So I hope to see you all there. And that is it for our recording. Thank you for all for coming.